The moment you turn 60, plain water can stop helping your body the way you think it does. And sometimes, without you noticing, it can even make your circulation weaker instead of stronger. I have seen this too many times in practice, and what worries me most is that people continue doing what they believed was healthy for decades, not realizing that the body has quietly changed its rules. You may remember how, years ago, you could drink a glass of water and feel refreshed almost instantly. There was lightness, clarity, energy. But now, perhaps, you drink the same glass and feel nothing, or even a slight heaviness, coldness in your hands, a subtle fatigue. These are not random sensations. They are signals. The body, after 60, processes fluids differently, distributes them differently, and, most importantly, retains or loses vital minerals in a completely new way. And here's where the real problem begins. With age, the blood becomes more viscous, the vessels lose elasticity, and microcirculation slows down. This is not a dramatic event. It happens quietly, year by year, like a river gradually losing its current. And if at this stage you continue drinking plain water in the same way you did at 40, you may unintentionally dilute the balance your body is desperately trying to maintain. I recall a patient, a calm, intelligent man in his late 60s. He followed every recommendation he had ever heard. He drank a lot of water, avoided salt, tried to cleanse his body, and yet his hands were always cold, his blood pressure unstable, and he complained of constant fatigue. When we looked deeper, the issue was not lack of water. It was the wrong relationship with it. His body was losing essential electrolytes faster than it could restore them. This is something many people overlook. After 60, hydration is no longer just about water. It becomes about balance, about how water interacts with your blood, your so-sooty, your cellular amen. Without this understanding, even the simplest habit can begin to work against you. Let me ask you something honestly. Have you noticed that your body no longer responds the way it used to, even when you are doing everything right? That the same habits bring weaker results, or no results at all? This is not your fault. This is physiology changing its language, and you need to learn to hear it again. There is one simple adjustment, one small but powerful trick that can significantly improve blood circulation, reduce that heaviness, and restore a sense of internal warmth and clarity. Most people have never heard of it, and I will tell you about it, but only if you stay with me until the very end, because without understanding the foundation, this trick will not work the way it should. What I want you to take from these first minutes is this. Your body is not failing you. It is adapting, but it requires a different kind of support now. Not more effort, not stricter rules, but more precise care. If this resonates with you, if you feel that quiet recognition inside, then do one simple thing right now. Subscribe to this channel and support it with a like. This helps bring this kind of honest, experience-based knowledge to more people who truly need it. And now, as we continue, it becomes important to understand not just that water behaves differently in your body after 60, but exactly what changes inside your blood and vessels that makes this shift so critical. What changes first is not what you see, but what flows inside you. Blood, after 60, becomes more sensitive to even small imbalances. Its thickness is no longer regulated as easily as before, and the vessels that carry it lose part of their flexibility. Imagine a once wide, elastic river that now has slightly rigid banks and a slower current. Even a small disturbance in composition can affect the entire flow. When you drink plain water, especially in large amounts, it does not simply hydrate in the way it used to. It begins to dilute sodium and other electrolytes in your blood. And these substances are not just numbers in a lab report. They are responsible for how your blood moves, how your muscles contract, how your heart maintains rhythm, and how your cells exchange energy. In younger years, the body corrects these fluctuations quickly. The kidneys respond faster, the hormonal system adjusts smoothly, and the so-sooty adapt without noticeable effort. But after 60, this system becomes slower and more fragile. As a result, excessive intake of plain water can lead to a subtle but important state where the blood loses its optimal density and electrical balance. I have seen patients who complained of dizziness, weakness, even episodes of sudden fatigue after what they believed was good hydration. When we looked closer, the issue was not dehydration. It was what we call relative electrolyte dilution. Their blood was not functioning efficiently because it lacked the right concentration of minerals. One woman, 72 years old, very disciplined, drank water every hour because she had read it was necessary. But she felt cold all the time. Her hands were pale, and she often felt lightheaded when standing up. When we adjusted her hydration approach, not by reducing water drastically but by changing its composition, her symptoms improved within a week. Circulation became more stable, warmth returned to her fingers, and even her sleep deepened. This is where an important idea appears. Hydration is not about volume. It is about absorption and retention. Your body needs not just fluid, but fluid that stays where it is needed and supports the movement of blood rather than weakening it. There is a simple physiological fact. Water follows sodium. Without enough sodium and supporting minerals, water passes through your system too quickly. It does not enter the cells properly, it does not nourish tissues effectively, and it does not support circulation. Instead, it can even increase the workload on your kidneys and create that strange feeling of drinking a lot but still not feeling truly hydrated. This leads us gently to a small but powerful shift. Instead of thinking, "I need to drink more water," it becomes more accurate to think, "I need to help my body use the water I drink." Tomorrow morning, you can try a very simple step. Before your first glass of water, pause, take a breath, and instead of drinking it quickly, add just a small pinch of natural salt. Not much, just enough to slightly change the taste. Then drink slowly. Observe how your body responds. Many people notice something unexpected, a sense of warmth, a clearer head, less urgency to drink again immediately. This is not a trick in the superficial sense. It is a return to physiological logic. Your blood recognizes this composition better. It holds on to the fluid longer. Circulation becomes smoother. Try this for 7 days. Not perfectly, not rigidly, but consistently. And simply observe. Your body will give you feedback if you listen. And as you begin to feel this difference, something else becomes important, something even quieter but deeply influential. Because water alone, even adjusted, is only part of the picture. There is another element that determines whether your vessels remain open, responsive, and capable of carrying this improved flow. When the water you drink finally begins to stay in your system instead of passing through it, a new question quietly appears. What exactly is it flowing through? Because even the most balanced fluid cannot move well if the vessels themselves have lost their responsiveness. After 60, the inner lining of your blood vessels, what we call the endothelium, becomes less active. In younger years, it produces enough nitric oxide, a simple molecule that keeps vessels relaxed, flexible, and open. But with age, this production decreases. The vessels become slightly more rigid, less willing to expand, and as a result, even well-hydrated blood moves with more resistance. You may not notice this directly, but you feel its consequences. Cold hands, slower thinking in the morning, heaviness in the legs by evening, fluctuations in pressure. These are not isolated issues. They are part of one quiet process, reduced vascular responsiveness. I remember a man, 68, who told me that his legs felt tight from the inside when he walked. Not pain, not weakness, just a strange internal resistance. His tests were acceptable, nothing alarming, but his circulation was not efficient. We did not begin with medication. We began with restoring the natural ability of his vessels to open and close properly. And this is where the second layer becomes essential. Certain simple nutrients directly support the production of nitric oxide, not in a dramatic, aggressive way, but gently, consistently. Foods rich in natural nitrates, such as beets, leafy greens, and even simple arugula, provide the raw material your body needs to restore this function. But there is something even more practical: the way you breathe. Most people after 60 begin to breathe more shallowly without realizing it. The diaphragm moves less, oxygen exchange becomes less efficient, and carbon dioxide levels drop too low. This may sound technical, but the effect is very simple. Blood vessels need a certain level of carbon dioxide to stay slightly dilated. Without it, they constrict. This means that even perfect hydration and correct mineral balance will not fully work if your breathing remains shallow. Tomorrow, along with that adjusted glass of water, try something else. Sit quietly for 2 minutes. Breathe in slowly through your nose, and then exhale just a little longer than you inhale. Not forcefully, not deeply to the point of discomfort, but calmly, rhythmically. 5 seconds in, 7 seconds out. Do this for 2 minutes. It may seem too simple to matter, but many of my patients notice that their hands become warmer, their head clearer, and even their posture changes slightly after just a few days. This is not imagination. This is physiology responding. There is also a scientific explanation. Controlled breathing increases nitric oxide availability, improves oxygen delivery, and stabilizes the tone of blood vessels. It is one of the few methods that affects circulation both mechanically and chemically at the same time. And here is something important to understand. You do not need to overhaul your life. You do not need complicated systems. At this stage, small, precise adjustments bring more benefit than large, chaotic efforts. Continue this for 7 days. Your slightly salted water in the morning. Your 2 minutes of calm breathing. Watch how your body begins to respond not with sudden changes, but with a steady, reassuring improvement. And if you feel even a small shift, support this knowledge. Subscribe to the channel and leave a like. It helps this kind of practical, experience-based guidance reach those who are still searching for answers. Because as circulation begins to improve from within, another layer reveals itself. Something that either strengthens this progress or quietly undermines it every single day, often without you noticing. When the vessels begin to respond again, when the blood starts to move more freely, many people expect to feel immediate strength, but instead, something more subtle often appears first. A quiet stability, fewer sudden drops in energy, a more even warmth in the body. And this is where a hidden factor begins to show itself, something that either protects this progress or slowly cancels it out. It is the way your muscles work throughout the day. Not exercise in the usual sense, not effort, but movement as a constant background process. After 60, muscles are no longer just about strength or posture. They become active participants in circulation. They help push blood back to the heart, especially from the lower parts of the body. Without this assistance, even well-balanced blood begins to stagnate. You may have noticed that sitting for a long time now feels different than it did years ago. Legs become heavy faster, feet may swell slightly, and there is a certain dullness that settles into the body. This is not simply fatigue. It is a slowdown of venous return. The blood is not moving upward as efficiently as it should. I remember a patient, a woman of 70, who lived a very orderly life. Good nutrition, correct hydration, even light morning exercises. But she spent long hours sitting, reading, sewing, resting. She told me her legs felt full by the afternoon, as if something was pressing from inside. We did not change her diet, we did not add medication, we changed one small thing. Every hour she began to stand up for just 2 minutes. Not to exercise, not to strain herself, just to walk slowly, to shift weight from one foot to the other, to let the calf muscles engage naturally. Within 10 days, she told me something very precise. The heaviness is gone, and I feel lighter not only in my legs, but in my head. This is not coincidence. The calf muscles are often called the second heart. When they contract, they push blood upward against gravity. When they remain inactive, circulation slows, and the benefits of everything else you are doing become limited. There is also a deeper physiological layer. Movement improves the sensitivity of blood vessels to nitric oxide. In simple terms, it makes them more willing to open when needed. It also improves the distribution of oxygen and nutrients, preventing that quiet stagnation that often leads to discomfort and long-term problems. But the key here is not intensity. After 60, the body does not respond well to sudden nagruska. It responds to rhythm, to consistency, to gentle repeated signals. So tomorrow, add one more element. Not a workout, not a plan, just a rule. Do not sit longer than 1 hour without standing. When you stand, do not rush. Walk slowly for 1 or 2 minutes. Feel your feet touching the ground. Let the body wake up without pressure. Try Try this for 7 days together with what you have already started: the adjusted water, the breathing, and now this quiet movement. Many people notice that their legs become lighter, their posture more stable, and even their mood more even. Because circulation is not just about blood. It is about how alive your body feels from within. And as this internal flow improves, another factor begins to matter more than ever. Something that works at night when you're not even thinking about it, quietly determining how well your vessels recover and how stable your circulation will be the next day. When circulation begins to restore itself during the day, the body naturally tries to consolidate this progress at night. But here, many people unknowingly interfere with their own recovery. Sleep after 60 is no longer just rest. It becomes a critical phase where vessels repair their inner lining, where hormonal balance stabilizes, and where the blood itself recalibrates its composition. And yet, I often see a pattern. A person follows good habits during the day, drinks correctly, moves gently, breathes better, but wakes up tired. Not exhausted, but not restored either. As if the night did not complete its work. This is where a very underestimated factor comes in: the position and timing of your last fluid intake before sleep. Let me explain simply. When you drink plain water late in the evening, especially in larger amounts, it changes the distribution of fluids during the night. The kidneys remain more active, the body shifts its focus to fluid regulation instead of recovery, and the deeper phases of sleep become fragmented, even if you do not fully wake up. But there is something even more important. Lying horizontally changes circulation. Blood redistributes differently, and if your vessels are already less flexible, even small imbalances in fluid and electrolytes can create a feeling of internal pressure or restlessness. I remember a man in his early 70s. He told me he woke up 2 or 3 times every night, not always to go to the bathroom, but with a strange sense of alertness, as if the body refused to fully relax. During the day, he did everything correctly, but in the evening, he drank water generously, believing it was healthy. We did not remove water. We changed its timing and its composition. His last significant intake of fluid moved earlier, about 2 hours before sleep. And instead of plain water, he used a slightly mineralized drink, similar to what you have already begun in the morning, but even milder. Within a week, his sleep became deeper. Not longer, but more restorative. He woke up with a clearer head, and most importantly, his morning blood pressure stabilized. There is a physiological explanation for this. During deep sleep, the body performs vascular maintenance. The endothelium recovers, inflammatory processes decrease, and the balance of fluids between cells and blood is carefully adjusted. But this process requires stability. It does not work well when the body is constantly adjusting excess water or compensating for diluted electrolytes. So, tomorrow evening, observe one simple principle. Do not drink large amounts of plain water in the last 2 hours before sleep. If you feel the need to drink, take small sips, and, if possible, add a very light mineral support, just enough to avoid complete dilution. You may notice something subtle but important. Falling asleep becomes easier, waking up feels more natural, and there is less heaviness in the body in the morning. Continue this for 7 days along with everything else you have already introduced. You are not forcing your body. You are allowing it to return to a rhythm that supports circulation instead of disrupting it. And as this rhythm becomes more stable, one more layer quietly reveals itself. Something that works throughout the entire day, influencing not just your vessels, but the very quality of your blood, often without any obvious signs until it becomes a problem. When sleep begins to restore you instead of simply passing time, the body gains a quiet advantage. The vessels recover more fully, the blood becomes more balanced, and you start the day not from a deficit, but from a position of stability. And at this point, something very important begins to matter even more than before, something that most people do not connect directly with circulation. It is the density of the blood itself, not just in terms of fluid, but in terms of what it carries every minute of your life. After 60, metabolism slows down. This is natural. But along with it, the body becomes less efficient at processing excess glucose. Even small fluctuations in blood sugar begin to affect the inner surface of vessels. Over time, this creates micro-damage, subtle inflammation, and a gradual loss of elasticity. You may not feel this directly. There is no immediate pain, no clear signal. But the effect accumulates. Blood becomes slightly thicker, less smooth in its movement, and the vessels respond more slowly. Even with proper hydration, even with breathing and movement, this factor can quietly limit your progress. I recall a patient, a former engineer, very precise in his habits. He followed all recommendations carefully, and yet his circulation improved only partially. His hands were still cool in the mornings, and he felt a certain sluggishness after meals. When we examined his daily routine, the answer was not in what he drank or how he moved, but in how his body responded to food. He was not overeating. He was not consuming excessive sugar in an obvious way. But his meals were structured in a way that caused small, repeated spikes in blood glucose. These spikes, over time, were affecting his vessels. We made a very simple adjustment, not a strict diet, not a limitation, but a sequence. He began to eat his meals in a slightly different order. First, something containing fiber, vegetables, simple greens, then protein, and, only after that, carbohydrates. Within 2 weeks, he told me something that may seem minor, but is very telling. After eating, I no longer feel that heaviness in my head. And gradually, his circulation improved further. There is a clear physiological explanation. Fiber slows down glucose absorption. Protein stabilizes insulin response. As a result, the blood maintains a more even composition, without sudden thickening or stress on the vessels. Tomorrow, try this quietly. Do not change what you eat. Change the order. Begin your meal with a few bites of vegetables. Then continue as usual. This is not about restriction. It is about helping your blood remain stable. And here is what is important. Stability in blood composition directly supports circulation. It reduces strain on the vessels, improves oxygen delivery, and allows everything you have already started, hydration, breathing, movement, sleep, to work more effectively. Continue this for 7 days. Observe not only your digestion, but your overall state after meals, clarity, warmth, steadiness. And as all these elements begin to align, something deeper becomes visible, a central principle that connects everything you have heard so far. The one detail that many people overlook, the one adjustment that brings all these small changes together into a single, powerful effect on your circulation. When all these small adjustments begin to work together, something very interesting happens. The body no longer struggles to compensate. It begins to cooperate. Circulation becomes not something you are trying to fix, but something that quietly restores itself. And at this point, it is time to understand the one principle that ties everything you have heard into a single, clear action. It is not just about what you drink, how you breathe, how you move, or how you sleep. It is about timing and consistency, about giving your body the same signals every day, in a rhythm it can trust. After 60, the body becomes extremely sensitive to rhythm. Irregularity creates stress. Even healthy habits lose part of their effect if they are scattered, unpredictable, or done without internal coherence. But when simple actions repeat at roughly the same time, the body begins to anticipate them. Hormones adjust in advance. Vessels prepare. Digestion becomes smoother. Circulation stabilizes not by effort, but by expectation. This is the point many people miss. They look for a strong intervention, something dramatic. But the real improvement comes from alignment. Let me give you a clear example. A patient, 65, came to me with unstable pressure and constant fatigue. He had tried many approaches, some of them quite advanced, but everything was inconsistent. One day he followed a routine, the next day he did not. His body never had time to adapt. We simplified everything. Morning, a glass of slightly mineralized water at the same time each day. 2 minutes of calm breathing immediately after. Gentle movement every hour without exception. Meals structured in the same sequence. Evening fluid intake reduced and shifted earlier. Nothing extreme, nothing complicated. But everything consistent. After 3 weeks, his words were very precise. I feel predictable again. This is one of the best descriptions of restored circulation I have ever heard. Because when circulation improves, the body regains its internal rhythm. There are fewer surprises, fewer sudden drops, fewer unexplained sensations. Now you can understand the one trick that many people never hear about. It is not a single action in isolation. It is the combination of correct hydration with minerals, supported by breathing, movement, stable nutrition, and proper timing, all repeated consistently. This creates a condition where blood flows more freely, vessels respond more naturally, and the body maintains balance without constant effort. If you apply only one part, you may feel some improvement, but when you bring them together, even gently, the effect multiplies. So, beginning tomorrow, do not try to change everything at once. Take what you have heard and let it settle into a simple daily rhythm. Morning water with a small pinch of salt, calm breathing, regular gentle movement, thoughtful eating sequence, quiet evenings with less fluid. Give this 7 days. Not perfectly, but attentively. And remember something important. You are not trying to become who you were at 40. You are learning how to support the body you have now. A body that is wiser, more sensitive, and capable of stability when treated with precision. If this understanding has been useful to you, support it. Subscribe to the channel and leave a like. This allows more people to receive guidance that is based not on trends, but on real physiological experience. Take care of your circulation, and you take care of your clarity, your energy, and your independence. And that is something worth protecting every single day.